Hello, lovelies. If you are a meatball lover the way I am, then today you are in luck because we are making meatballs 3 delicious ways. Now, of course, we've all had classic spaghetti and classic meatballs are delicious, but today I'm actually going to be showing you 3 tasty takes on meatballs that I think you're going to love. Now, without further ado, let's get to today's first meatball recipe, these absolutely incredible chicken Caesar meatballs. So, not only are these going to be served up with Caesar salad, but the meatballs themselves actually taste a lot like Caesar salad dressing, which I love. I am starting with some ground chicken here. You could also do this with ground turkey if you wanted to. I wouldn't recommend this with beef. I think it's definitely better with poultry. Now, I'm gonna get started by adding some breadcrumbs and an egg. This is just going to help bind our meatballs together and give them a really nice texture. That's really classic when it comes to meatballs. And then it's time to really pump up the flavor factor. We are going to be adding a whole lot of incredible Caesar salad dressing ingredients right into our meatballs. Starting with the most important of ingredients, some freshly grated Parmesan cheese. I'm also going to be adding some freshly chopped parsley to this, a whole heaping helping as you can see. Next, guys, I am going to be adding a teaspoon or 2 of anchovy paste. Nobody panic. If you don't know it already, anchovy paste is actually the secret ingredient that makes Caesar salad dressing oh so good. You can usually find it in the seafood aisle at your supermarket, and it's got this really amazing umami flavor that is totally irresistible. Now, if you want to skip the anchovy paste, you definitely can, but I will tell you, it will affect the flavor of your final meatballs. So if you can add it, definitely do. In addition to that anchovy paste, I've got even more flavor boosters headed in here. So I've got some Dijon mustard, some Worcestershire sauce, and a whole lot of garlic. As you can see, I'm actually going to grate my garlic into this recipe as opposed to putting minced garlic in here. And that's just gonna help it get nice and combined as opposed to having chunks of garlic for people to bite into. This is a much nicer way to enjoy your garlic. So go ahead and just grate that right in. While you have your grater in hand, you can go ahead and add the zest of 1 lemon. I'm also going to add the juice of half a lemon to this so we get a nice freshness in addition to all of those wonderful savory flavors. And then finally, we'll just season this up liberally with some salt and some pepper. I'll use a wooden spoon to give this a really, really good mix. It's important to get all of those flavors well combined. And then I'm going to go ahead and form my meatballs. So to do this, I am going to be using my cookie scoop. This is a 1-inch cookie scoop. If you don't have one at home, you can definitely use a measuring spoon if you wanted to. A 1 tablespoon measuring spoon would probably be about right. But the cookie scoop makes it so super simple. If you don't have one, I will link one in the description box below. Once my final meatball is fully formed, I will get a seriously needed hand wash in, and then we will get these into the oven. We'll get these into the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit until they reach a safe internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit, and then they will be ready to serve. As soon as they come out of the oven, these meatballs are ready to be enjoyed. You could serve them up on a nice pasta dish if you wanted to, but I like keeping things nice and fresh by serving them up with a side of Caesar salad and a little extra Caesar salad dressing for dipping. Come on, guys. What is not made better with a little dip? Next up, lovelies, I have some incredible sweet and savory Asian-inspired meatballs for you. Now, traditionally, these would be made with pork, but today I'm actually going to be using some ground turkey instead. You can definitely use either one. They both will work really, really well in this recipe. I'm going to get started by adding my binders once again. So I've got some breadcrumbs headed in here, panko breadcrumbs if you have them. I also have 1 egg headed in here. And then for some really nice fresh flavor, I have got some green onion, finely chopped, headed in here. I've also got some soy sauce headed in here, as well as some ginger and some garlic. Once again, I'm grating my garlic to make sure it's nice and evenly distributed. And it's really as simple as that. I'm just going to mix this all up once again with my wooden spoon and then use my cookie scoop to form my meatballs. Instead of baking these this time, I am actually going to be frying these on the stove. But just before I get to that, I want to whip up a really delicious sauce for these meatballs. And it all starts with some hoisin sauce. Now, if you're not familiar with hoisin, it is a classic Asian sauce. You can usually find it in the international aisle at your supermarket. It's a little bit savory, but also a little bit sweet. So it's got a really nice balance. To my hoisin sauce, I'm going to add some rice vinegar for a bit of tang, a little splash of sesame oil, a nice helping of ginger, as well as some chili garlic sauce. Now, if you're not a fan of the heat, of course, you could use just some regular garlic in this recipe instead, but chili garlic sauce, as you guys probably know by now, is one of my favorite go-to ingredients. So if you can handle the heat, definitely go ahead and add it. We're just gonna whisk that all up until it's well combined, and then we can get started on frying up our meatballs. As you can see, for this, I am using a non-stick skillet. Just makes life a little bit easier. I've got some oil heating up, and as soon as that oil is nice and hot, I'm going to transfer my meatballs right into the skillet. What I like to do is let them cook up on one side for about 3 to 4 minutes, just until they start to brown. Then I give them a quick flip, cook them on another side for another 2 minutes or so, and then I like to flip them a third time to make sure they get evenly browned on all sides. Once your meatballs are nice and brown on the exterior, you can go ahead and get your sauce into the pan. We're going to continue cooking our meatballs in all of that yummy sauce. So once the sauce hits the pan, you'll want to reduce your heat to medium-low and let it simmer away while you give your meatballs a few flips in it to make sure they're well coated. At this point, we could just let our meatballs cook away in that sauce for maybe 5 to 7 minutes. You want to make sure that your meatballs reach an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit on a meat thermometer. At this point, these are ready to be enjoyed. I like serving them up simply with some rice, a little bit of finely chopped green onion, maybe some sesame seeds for good measure. And what can I say, guys? Dinner is served with a flavor factor of 10, maybe an 11, actually. And for my final dish today, guys, I am making an absolute showstopper. They are French onion meatballs, and oh my gosh, they taste incredible. Now, we're going to start by making our meatballs, and then we're going to do up some incredible French onions on the stove. To make our meatballs, we are going to be using beef this time, but this would work really well with some chicken or even some turkey. Definitely up to you. To my ground beef, I'm going to be adding my breadcrumbs and my egg, as well as a big helping of shredded Gruyere cheese. The cheese in this recipe is absolutely essential. Now, if you don't have Gruyere cheese on hand, you could definitely use any kind of Swiss in this recipe, or you could swap in some sharp white cheddar here as well. Lots of options for you guys. To add even more great flavor to this, I've got some Worcestershire sauce headed in here, some fresh thyme leaves, as well as more of that awesome grated garlic, a little salt, a little pepper. We're going to give this a really good stir until it's well combined. And then once again, we are going to form our meatballs. I'm placing them on a parchment lined baking sheet. Once all our meatballs are rolled, we'll get them into the oven at 375 degrees Fahrenheit for between 20 and 25 minutes, just until they are totally cooked through. And in the meantime, we are going to get to work on our amazing French onions. Oh, I'm pretty excited about it. I'm heating my skillet over medium-high heat. Into that, I'm going to add some butter. As soon as that butter is nice and melted and frothy, I'll go ahead and get my onion into the skillet. So we're going to be caramelizing these onions. I've got 2 large yellow onions that I've thinly sliced, and I'm going to get them into that skillet with a nice helping of salt. And I'm basically going to cook these over medium heat, stirring them regularly until they've reached this incredible deep golden brown. That's how you know when they've achieved really good, super sweet flavor. And at that point, it's time to add the rest of our ingredients to this. So I've got some beef broth headed in here to add some moisture back into our pan. I've got some Worcestershire sauce, a little bit of Dijon mustard, and some fresh thyme leaves, a little salt, a little pepper, and all I want to do is bring that mixture just to a simmer. Once it's reached a simmer, I am going to transfer all of those delicious meatballs into the pan, and I'm going to let them cook up for another, say, 5 minutes or so. I really want to give those meatballs a chance to absorb some of that incredible French onion flavor, and I'm going to finish this off by adding another good helping of Gruyere cheese to the top of my meatballs. Guys, French onion meatballs for the win. These are absolutely incredible. I am salivating just talking about them. I hope you will give all 3 of today's delicious recipes a try, and if you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Facebook me a photo, because you know how much I love seeing your kitchen creations. All 3 of today's delicious ideas are being featured on healthymealplans.com, so you can find them there. They're also linked in the description box below. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.